Okay, welcome to a new and rebooted episode of Northern Monkeighs. This time we're talking about probably one of the coolest models I've ever seen in the flesh. It's the all singing, all dancing, Iron Hands themed Redemptor Dreadnought, which I just think it looks cash. You might have seen it in the thumbnail, maybe you're having to be teased and wait, but we'll see, guys. So we're going to talk about why we made it, how we made it. It was a real team effort with Dave and David. Don't get confused, I will. And yeah, let's just talk about it. So this is it. What a piece of art. Like, in terms of like things that I've seen, I just think this is a lovely model. And the pictures never do things justice, but hopefully you can get a good idea of it. Now, David, just sort of you commissioned this, I suppose. You're the architect. How do you how do you come about wanting this? And yeah, just talk us through it.
So, being an Iron Hands player, it kind of seems like it's a natural progression. We ain't got a Primarch. Well, I mean, he ain't got an head anyway. So, we don't have that big centerpiece model. Don't get me wrong, Ferius, it's a really, really nice model. But it's not a Gulliman. It's not a Lion. It's not a Sanguinar.
Yeah, he's not fancy.
And also, it seems logical to me, at least. I mean, maybe there is a reason in the law why it doesn't happen. That you've got an Iron Father who was so venerated by the Iron Hands die, or nearly die,
Yeah.
and then not be put into a Dreadnought.
Yeah, and bring all those skills with him. Like, why? Yeah.
And the knowledge. I mean, and don't forget, you look at it and you might go, oh, it's a Tech Marine Dreadnought. And yeah, he is. But he's an Iron Father, so he's also basically a chaplain too.
And a captain.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And then thinking about the way Iron Hands played in 9th, which I like to do a lot.
No.
If you know, you know. You used to be able to spend a command point and turn a Dreadnought into a character. I don't know if you guys remember that.
And pre-game stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and the buff, my Conceptualizing Dreadnought with the twin lozzies.
Yeah, it was gross.
Hitting on 2 re-rolling ones. Yeah, he was a nice guy. But it made sense as well. Again, going back, we don't have a centerpiece model. Games Workshop, we need a centerpiece model. And if we don't get one, we're just going to make our own.
So this to me is like the absolute coolest part of the model here, all these wires. It's got that body horror element that I think we all really like about 40k. And it just looks mint. It's so well done. Now, this is like such a long way from you like grabbing your old Redemptor Dreadnought model and a like crane from the Orc Bits box and just like jamming them together and being like, "Whoa, won't this look mint?" So you finally got it.
It's not even a joke. That's literally what happened.
Every single time we're here, you just go like, "Oh no, what about this though?" Wonder. So now I'm gonna pass it over to Dave. He's just gonna talk about like the process of putting all this wiring together and how this like the heart of this model was jammed in there.
Thanks for that. So there's 2 bits really with the model. When we spoke about what Dave wanted by way of the actual Dreadnought itself, there were some ideas that we talked about in relation to what wanted to be there. As you mentioned previously, the claw featured very highly in the conversation. They needed the giant stabby claw on the top of the dread. But given the things that go on at the Monkeighs, I was thinking as well about how that might also be used elsewhere on the board. So things like sort of pictures, dioramas, things like that. And I thought, how could I do things to the model that would make the model visually impressive, but also give you some extra options? And that was kind of the birth point of the bits you can see inside the model. The Redemptor's a great kit, but
Yeah.
I'm very much a fan of the Leviathan. And I like that idea of the sort of the occupant essentially sitting inside the carapace and looking out, rather than being stuck inside the big slab of the tomb. And so that was the first thought that sort of came to me, that I wanted it sat with a helmet, a bit like the way the Leviathan sits, which you can see. But then I liked the idea of a picture in my mind of the Dreadnought plot being pulled open, so you can tell on the picture that the two sections that fold up and down on the normal Redemptor actually is one unit, more like a hood than an opening and shutting canopy. So that was to allow it to fully fold away so that I could do things in the interior that otherwise the top section would have blocked. And that's where the idea for the marine still inside the actual carapace, sort of, that you could expose, sort of came to me, really. So you could picture the scene of a tech marine sort of working away at this venerable elder of the chapter, and you can sort of see all the goibles and the gubbins inside the actual machine itself.
And I really like this is directly in opposition to the Redemptor law that they burn out the pilots, which I just think is so stupid.
Yeah.
And nobody liked that, GW.
Well, it's like Dave said, isn't it? You know, these are models that are venerable in the chapter, in the lore. They've got knowledge and skills that they're not going to want to lose. So these are things to be protected and looked after. And so that was kind of some of the motivation.
So I'd like to be able to take credit for it, and I wish I could. But excuse me, mate, can you stick a big orc grabby arm up back of a Redemptor to make it look like a tech marine? Was about as far as the conversation went from my end. And don't get me wrong, I've seen some of Dave's other models, so I knew how good at conversions he is. And I know this is getting confusing with Dave and David. We use them interchangeably all the time. I'm sorry.
Just picture them like the guy from Total Recall, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I basically once said to him jokingly, one day you're going to have to do this for me. And he said, let's do it. And I went, yeah, great. And then the next day, as you can see on the screen, I was thinking this and I was thinking that and I was thinking that. And I've learned in my life that when somebody's going with it like that, just leave them to it. Especially if their ideas are better than yours. Because, I don't know, part of me still likes to see orc with grabby arm, but I don't think it'd have the same effect. You know, all this with the servo skulls coming out and the tendrils. I know there's another name for that, but I will mess it up. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. So, yeah, it will. You know, again, I'd like to take credit for it, but it were all David. And I just got happier and happier as I saw photos coming. As you guys can see, it's slowly taking shape now.
Yeah, so I mean, my basic plan was to just try and make a really fat, chunky Dreadnought.
Yeah.
You expressed an interest in wide loads, and I assumed you took it in all areas of life as a philosophy rather than just in relation to wargaming. So
It's not a liar, that's
yeah, I mean, what I tried to do was approach it from a practical point of view. It's like, it's a big chuffing Dreadnought. It's got massive claws, and I don't know about anybody else. When I was a kid playing sort of second edition, back in the 90s when I was a wee bairn, the thing that always confused me about the tech marines was the fact they had these massive claws, but they were trying to sometimes do intricate work.
It's
Like, it's one thing to tear off the armor of a tank. It's another thing to try and get in there and get the gubbins to work.
Peeling it back together.
Well, exactly, yeah. And that's even more complex when you're a giant Dreadnought with no, peripherals or the ability to necessarily see tactilely perhaps what you're doing. So the drawing and the picture you can see there is essentially me thinking, well, a big dread can't get in there with its hands, so it's got the big claw to tear things open, but how does it get to electronics? How does it get to other bits and pieces that are in the actual tank or the thing it's trying to fix? As if by magic, the bits and pieces I referred to appear on the screen. So essentially, as you said, Dreadnought got a giant claw at the back, tearing up armor, but how does the Dreadnought deal with electrics? How does the Dreadnought deal with soldering things back together with a giant claw? So my idea was, which you saw in the picture previously and the pictures now, is that there's probably spheres of detail that the Dreadnought might work in. So you've got the servitor skulls that might act as the welders that get in close, get into the detail, they can see the gubbins and look around it. You've got mechadendrites that come out of the back at the power plant that might be used to slip in under the armor and get past the things that the other bits and pieces can't get to. So you've got this Dreadnought with a field of view and a range of options that is obviously more than perhaps something like a tech marine might have to get into whatever it is he's working on. And that was the idea behind the extra bits and pieces that you can see there.
Yeah, and I love this guy, like, working, like, with these spheres. He's becoming, like, more and more machine, understanding more and more. But I don't know about you, David, but these servo skulls for me are, like, this is peak 40k. They're just ghoulish and just creepy little mofos that are just, like, imagine one of these things skittering up to you, like, you lay wounded next to a tank, and this thing just passes over you, like, they're like the Sentinels from the Matrix.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, going back to my orky claw, if you've seen the claw from the Mech by Workshop, you'll get what I had in my head. And then when Dave sent me a photo of it, I don't know if you can quite see, but there is almost like a cog on the top of it, which just goes, "Hi, I'm Iron Hands."
Yeah.
Which I really, 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 I think I liked it a little bit too much, to be fair. They were like, I spent all this time building this, and you're like, there's a bit there. But I think it works so well.
Can I tell you a secret about the claw?
Yeah.
So the claw itself is actually a leg of a killer can. So it actually is an orky claw. I've taken essentially the knee joint and the hip joint, and I've cut them out and then joined them together to create
I
the claw.
thought you kept saying gubbins a bit too much.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it really is an orky claw, Dave.
Crying.
Yeah, I thought you'd be happy. Yeah, so I mean, you can see there in the picture the sort of end result of some of those thoughts and conversations. Pretty pleased with the overall result. You can see there's a little LED screen in the bottom of the hood that folds away, which I imagine to be some kind of interface for the tech marine to get in and do some diagnostics.
Yeah,
I'm not going to use the word gubbins now you've said it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably where he can play Tetris as well.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Looking at it with that screen, it is giving me that kind of, was it Michael Keaton Batman, where he can't turn his head, so he has to move his whole body, so he needs the screen and the cameras.
That's right, absolutely.
And I believe they're guitar strings as well, are they not, as well as the...
Bass guitar, yeah. What you can't see is behind the box, because I didn't know what the marine would look like. I only knew I wanted something in there, a mass that looks remotely humanoid. And so I built the chair as well, and there's a lot of copper wires that plug into the sides of the Dreadnought that now are completely obscured by the tech marine chest, which is really useful. Yeah. But the point being it's there. The point being it's there. Yeah.
It's a bit soul destroying when that happens. I remember painting the tech marine shoulder pad on my Xiphon Interceptor, and it's best paint job I ever did. And then when you glue it in, you can't even see it. Yep. And I remember just shaking my head like, why?
I fully detailed that converted dropship that I made. Painted the man, painted the cockpit, and then painted the cockpit glass red, so you can't even see it. So, yeah.
But
Yeah, I know it's there. That's the important bit. And as you can see from the back there, you can see the power plant. Rather than having the dendrites coming out of the body somewhere, I like the idea of them being coiled up behind the symbol, and that acting like almost like a bulkhead opening on a submarine, and then the tendrils just sort of sneaking out the side.
Yeah, it's almost like an animal like coming out of a cave or a nest. It's very horrible.
Well, I also didn't want the two extra bits to sort of detract from the model, so the idea is that it's things that are just beginning to occur, so the tentacles are just coming out. Where you see the servitor skulls, they're just emerging out of the body of the Dreadnought rather than, all over it and distracting.
And also, obviously there's the cog going round the front, which just screams Iron Hands. But even when you've detailed my shoulder pads with the cutaways to look like cogs as well, it's them little accent things that even singly are quite small, but when you do it 4 or 5 times on a model, then as soon as that's painted up, it's just like, it's absolutely perfect, isn't it?
And on the chapters where you struggle to get like the detail and the flavour that you want, like Iron Hands, who are notoriously under-supported in the terms of miniatures, not rules. You're like, it's girl, you love to see it.
Yeah.
And so from a rules perspective, this thing could just be a Redemptor Dreadnought. It's the perfect size for it, the height. If anything, you've modelled for disadvantage, sticking a big crane on top of it and big wide legs and everything. There's no way that it wouldn't run in a tournament. But at the same time, I think a way to represent this guy being that Iron Father on the tabletop if you paid the points for a tech marine, take some kind of token to represent that and have it run around with him, he can be repairing the vehicles and giving this model +1 to hit, so he's always hitting on 2s, a bit like how you liked it in 9th. And like, yeah, it'll just make this Redemptor sort of feel like a character, and maybe if it's a Servitor or a Scutari or some kind of tech priest buddy, then it's like, you know, you keep that idea of this guy on his own as the tech marine, but still in game it's perfectly functional as like this token for the tech marine that your opponent can shoot or charge. And plus the tech marine's attacks will even add to this guy, like his mecha dendrites coming out in combat. Like imagine, like they're not that massive in this version of it because of the various reasons, but like imagine if they all come out and those things are 15 feet long and they start grabbing people up. It'd be pretty good.
Well, he's the Casey Ryback of the Iron Hands, isn't he? You know, he also cooks. To quote the great Steven Seagal. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think, like you say, if you want it to have that tabletop presence that you talked about, David, then that's probably a good way of going about it, I would say. And like you say, I happen to like the wide boy feet, the big extra plating.
I said that's all of that. I think it makes it stand out.
Yeah, that it definitely makes it look more like a siege Dreadnought rather than just a sort of standard Dreadnought, which again lends to that idea of it being this unique figure on the battlefield versus just a normal Redemptor.
Yeah, and like even when, you know, I'm really wanting to annoy Oliver by bringing 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, even if I'm just running him as a Redemptor Dreadnought, you know, when he's stood next to 2 of his mates, it's just going to stand out more.
Can you have a Dreadnought HQ? Does that work?
No. No. But like Oliver says with the token thing, you know, we can get around it. And guys, we don't play tournaments as you'll come to see in the videos. We're just friends who like to play Warhammer, and you know, when you see my entire Iron Hands army laid out, this is going to look so much at the centre. Going back to what I was saying before, going back to the centerpiece model that we don't have as an army. You know, before this, my centerpiece model was my Fellblade or my Xiphon or my Astraeus. You know, now we've got something that is, this is Iron Hands.
You don't have to play 3,000 points in order for it to be like usable.
I mean, we can still do that.
Oh yeah. Well, you can have this guy repairing the Fellblade. Think about it.
Yep.
Improving the Zaphon's hit rate.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible on the table anyway, but it looks good.
It does.
And that's what matters. So thanks for watching. Totally different content than what we've done before, but if you like it, it's just something chill to put on while you're painting. So yeah, like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see David's redonkulous Iron Hands collection, or if you want to see more of Dave's amazing conversion work, he's got some cool Space Wolf stuff. For those who like Space Marines with actual flavour behind them, not just
furry.
Wow.
Let us know, like and subscribe, guys, and thanks for watching.